and welcome. Is Nigeria finally on the verge of one of the biggest security reforms in its history? Could the long-debated idea of state police soon become a reality? And after years of argument, political disagreements, constitutional hurdle, and concerns about abuse of state police, has the federal government finally found a pathway for creating a new policing system for Africa's most populous nation? Those questions are back in the spotlight after the presidency announced that significant progress has been made towards establishing state police in Nigeria. According to the Chief of Staff to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Femi Gbajabiamila, consultations among critical stakeholders have advanced substantially, and a constitutional amendment required to create state police could be ready within the coming weeks. This is not just another policy discussion. This is a proposal that could fundamentally alter how security is managed across Nigeria. For decades, policing in Nigeria has remained under the control of the federal government through a centralized police structure. Yet, despite the deployment of thousands of police officers across the country, insecurity continues to challenge communities from the north to the south, from rural villages to major cities. The question many Nigerians have continued to ask is simple: can one centralized police force effectively secure a nation of more than 200 million people? Speaking after a high-level meeting at the presidential villa in Abuja, Femi revealed that discussions initiated on the directive of President Tinubu has gained remarkable traction. According to him, months of consultations involving lawmakers, legal experts, security officials, and other stakeholders have brought the country closer than ever to achieving a workable framework for state police. His comments suggest that the debate has moved beyond the question of whether state police should exist. The focus, he said, is increasingly shifting towards how it should be structured, regulated, and integrated into Nigeria's broader security architecture. That shift is significant because it indicates that many of the political actors involved may already be accepting the idea of inevitable. Think about that for a moment. For years, state police was viewed by many as a controversial proposal. Critics warned that governors could abuse state police for political purposes. Others feared it might create rival security structures capable of threatening democratic stability. Yet, despite those concerns, insecurity among many parts of the country has intensified the demand for alternative solutions. Today, the argument appears to be changing. The question is no longer whether Nigeria needs additional security options. The question is whether the country can afford not to have them. According to the presidency, President Tinubu has consistently supported decentralized policing as part of efforts to strengthen national security. Supporters of the proposal argue that local police officers understand their communities better than officers deployed from distant parts of the country. They believe state police would improve intelligence gathering, accelerate emergency response, and strengthen cooperation between communities and security agencies. Consider the challenges faced by many communities. When attacks occur, residents often complain about delayed responses from security agencies. In some cases, local knowledge that could assist investigations is not immediately available to officers unfamiliar with the terrain. Advocates of state police argue that locally controlled policing could bridge these gaps and improve security outcomes. The meeting that discussed the proposal brought together some of Nigeria's most influential political and security leaders. Among those present were Deputy Senate President Jibrin Barau, Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu, Attorney General of the Federation Lateef Fagbemi, Inspector General of Police Kayode Egbetugun, and several other senior officials. Their participation highlights the seriousness of the ongoing discussions and underscores the importance the government is attaching to the initiative. But while supporters celebrate the progress, many questions remain unanswered. How will state police be funded? What safeguards will exist to prevent abuse of power? How will recruitment be conducted? Will officers answer solely to governors, or will there be federal oversight? What mechanisms will exist to resolve conflicts between federal and state security agencies? These are critical questions because the success or failure of state police may ultimately depend on the answers. Critics also point to Nigeria's political history. They warn that without strong constitutional safeguards, some governors could potentially use state police to intimidate opponents or influence political processes. These concerns are not being dismissed lightly. That is why the ongoing consultations have focused heavily on creating a legal framework capable of balancing operational effectiveness with accountability. Femi acknowledged that establishing state police is not something that can happen overnight. Constitutional amendments must first be secured. Legal frameworks must be developed. Regulatory institutions must be established. Operational guidelines must be carefully drafted. In other words, the proposal remains a work in progress. Yet, the fact that discussions have advanced to this stage suggests that momentum is building behind the scene. For millions of Nigerians living in communities affected by banditry, kidnapping, terrorism, and violent crime, the debate over state police is no longer an abstract political conversation. It is about safety. It is about protecting lives and property. It is about whether communities can finally receive faster and more effective security responses. The coming weeks could therefore prove decisive. If the constitutional amendment progresses successfully through the legislative process, Nigeria may be witnessing the beginning of one of the most significant security reforms since the return of democratic governance. Such a development would reshape the country's policing system and potentially redefine the relationship between federal and state governments in matters of security. For President Tinubu, the proposal represents an important opportunity to leave a lasting mark on Nigeria's security architecture. For lawmakers, it represents a constitutional challenge that will require careful deliberation. For security experts, it is a test of whether decentralized policing can address problems that centralized policing has struggled to resolve. One thing is clear: the conversation has changed. State police is no longer a distant idea discussed only in political circles. It is rapidly moving towards becoming a national policy reality. The only question that remains is whether Nigeria's leaders can build a framework strong enough to deliver security without compromising accountability. As the nation awaits the next phase of the process, millions of Nigerians will be watching closely, because if state police becomes reality, it could mark the beginning of a new chapter in Nigeria's fight against insecurity. Stay with us on News Express. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I am Cassie Tony, and many thanks for watching.